Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome to our Sporting Memories Get Together. It's a full house today. We've actually got two screens. We're going to have to be jumping left, right, and centre. For those people who haven't joined us before, basically, my name's Norman Prince. We welcome everybody. We have a chat with all our Sporting Memories people from Leyland and Chorley, and we've got people from Deepdale as well. We usually have a quiz and we usually have a discussion agreement if you want to join us any other week. And every other week, we try to get a special guest. To give you the point about the technology point of view, if you want to say something, rather than just say something when somebody's talking, because the system cuts that person out that's talking and it gets a bit stilted. So if you do want to add something, just raise your hand and then Andrew, my son, who's the engineer, can actually come to you and then we can keep it flowing that way. So that makes it a lot easier from that point of view. And then if there's anything, you want to contribute, by all means do, and we'll keep it going. But it's a special occasion today. As I said, we've got a special guest, Graham Alexander. All you Preston North End supporters will be jumping up and down and cheering, the older ones. And we've got two friends of ours. We've got Martin Alderton from our Sporting Memories at Deepdale, and we've got John Kay, our Sporting Memory person from Leyland. So they're doing the hosting. I'll hand it over. It's all the way over to you, gentlemen. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Norman. Thanks. Right, well, we've already introduced Graham. He's there in the corner. Thank you very much for coming on, Graham.
Pleasure.
We're not always this slick. Blame you for that.
Yeah. I think we're all getting used to this new way of communicating. To be fair, I'm not one for technology normally, but the last month or so I've had to get used to this. I've never heard of Zoom before this last month, to obviously communicate with my staff and players. So I'm sure we'll get there in the end.
Yeah. Welcome to the real world for some of us there. Right. John is going to talk about your time at Deepdale, John Kay. But before I do that, I just thought it'd be worth having a look back at some numbers.
Yeah.
Some of them numbers you might not want to remember, but there you go. Born on the 10th of October 1971, same day as my wife, but a different year. Born in Coventry. 983 games.
Cracking.
My knees are creaking just thinking about that. 983 club games, 130 goals. And probably one of the things you're best known for, besides the number of games, is 78 penalties. Now that's a fair record, isn't it? Over 800 Football League games. I want to look down for this. 49 FA Cup games. That must be a disappointment from your career, Graham. You never made it to 50.
Yeah, I didn't know that number, to be fair.
And then 101 other games. Started at Scunthorpe, 200 games for them. No penalties, I noticed when I was looking.
No.
183 for Luton, then 421 for North End, with that spell at Burnley bracketed in between, and we'll talk about all of them later on. And the 1,000 is made up with the 40 Scotland caps as well.
That's right.
Which is another fantastic achievement. And I was just looking, because I do all the stats for North End, I'm a bit of I don't get out much. But so you made your debut December 1988 for Scunthorpe. Yes. Remember that? As a substitute. 17 years, 1 month and 27 days.
Yes. Yeah, it was in the what is now the Leyland DAF, or it was the Leyland DAF, or I don't know what year it was, or what it was called that year. But yeah, I was a first year apprentice, and during the day I was actually working, because you did work experience then when you were an apprentice, and you worked at various jobs around the ground. And that week I was doing work in the ticket office, in the afternoon. It was part of the apprenticeship, and then the assistant manager come down to speak to me and said, "What are you doing down here? You're in the squad." And that was it. So it was no big lead up to it. So I just walked down the corridor and got changed. And at that time there, the youth team coach was actually still a player. So a fella called Richard Money who signed me as a 16-year-old, and he was actually playing right back. that night. And then he came off at half time, and I went on for my youth team coach at half time. And I was about 8.5, 9 stone, nothing on me. And I played against a lad called Wayne Allenson, who's known as the Chief. And very big guy, very aggressive, very strong, and threw me about a little bit. But I was quite an aggressive little bugger when I was that age. And I tried to give as good as I got. But and he's actually now working for LMA, and I had a meeting with him about a month ago, and he actually didn't know that I made my debut against him all those years ago. But I thought I did okay, but I think the manager must have thought differently, because I didn't make my league debut for another 2 years or so. So, but yeah, it was 45 minutes. It gave me a bit of a taste of first team football, what it was about, and. I think they just they gave me that chance because of my attitude, really, rather than any God-given talent at that time. I think they just wanted to give the other young players at Scunthorpe a bit of a carrot to chase. That it is possible to get into the first team if you work hard and so forth. But I can't remember actually anything about the game, to be honest. It was that long ago, But it's a little stat there.
I think I already know the answer to this, but when you made your debut, did you think it was going to be 23 and a half years to the end of your playing career?
No, I think my immediate, when you go into a football club at 16, as an apprentice, I think your first ambition is to get to be a professional, to sign a professional contract. So, at that point, even though I'd made my debut in that competition, I was still miles away from a professional contract, and you take it maybe a little bit for granted, but that was my aim, and you don't. There's no way at 16, 17. I think this is any professional, any walk of life. I can't think of many people at 16 or 17 are thinking of what they're going to be doing at 39, 40. I think they're probably looking at next week, or next month. I don't think they look that far ahead, and I was no different. I was just enjoying my day of being at a football club. I'd only been at a football club, I'd only left school that year in the I don't know when it is, you finish school June, July or whatever, and so going from school in Coventry, never been affiliated with a football club, to then playing in a football league club, even though it wasn't in a football league, it was quite a shock, really. But I didn't give any thought to playing until I did. Not a chance, no.
Right, well, we've dealt with the beginning, so I'll now hand over to John, because John wants to start right at the very end. 8 years ago yesterday.
Yes, I was told that actually yesterday by my wife.
Yeah, so I'll hand over to John now, and I'll be back later.
Okay, mate.
Hi, Graham.
Hi, John.
Yes, all the best fairy tales begin at the end, as Martin said, so we'll start there.
Yeah.
5-5, May 2012 at Deepdale. North End are losing 2-1 to Charlton in what was otherwise a meaningless last game of the season, apart from the fact that you, age 40, about to retire from professional football with North End, and you want to play your 421st game, but you're only on the bench. Then there's 2 minutes from time, and Graham Westley at last decides to bring you on as a sub. What's going through your mind? And more importantly, what happens next?
If I go back at the start of that week, in fact, if I go back to the previous Sunday, I was at the PFA Awards the week before to collect an award for the longevity of my career and so forth. And I was actually sat on a table next to the Charlton players and the Charlton manager, because they'd won the league that year, and a lot of their boys were in the team of the year and so forth. And I just went across to congratulate him, and I spoke to Chris Powell and congratulated him. And, he was just asking me what I was doing now and this, that, the other. So there was I didn't have a clue about playing the next week. And I'd had a few drinks celebrating, because I took all my family. I'd always gone to these things probably with my teammates and so forth. But because I was a guest of honour by the PFA, I asked if I could bring my mum and dad and my wife and my brother and sisters down, because it was the end of my career, and they'd played such a part in my upbringing and everything. I wanted them to be a part of the night. So the PFA were fantastic that night. And a legend of the game, Martin Buchan, was our personal escort, which my dad loved because, Scottish, and Martin Buchan, brilliant. So it was a great night. And then I went into training. Sorry, I think it was the Wednesday, and it was a day off for everybody. And Graham Wesley rang me and said he wanted to include me in the squad on the Saturday to, say bye to the supporters and just, finish off with put me on the bench, and if he could get me on, he'd get me on. And I said, could I think about it? Which I think now, what was I thinking? But I just said, could I think about it? Because I hadn't played for, I think, three or 4 months. And the last time I was actually on the pitch, I came off after 10 seconds. I tore my hamstring.
Right. Yeah.
And I
saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, I didn't want people to think he's gone. I wanted to remember what I was previous, sort of thing. But I thanked him, and I just said, can I think about it? And I was in the car with my wife, and my wife said, what have you got to think about? The last time the Preston fans saw you was limping off after 10 seconds. Do you want that to be the last memory? And it made sense a little bit. So, but, and then, so I rang him back and I said, that'd be great. I'd love to be involved. And so I trained with the first team on the Friday, and, I hadn't trained properly for a while. And all I was concerned about, I was very nervous because I just didn't want to mess up, and I didn't want to make a mistake, and I didn't want to, that was it. I just wanted to come on and make no mistakes. And that was it really. And, but when, it was 2-1 and we were chasing a goal. So I was thinking, actually, I might not get on, because you might put a forward on. But, thankfully, Graham decided to put me on, said I'd go on at right back. And so I just kept everything really simple. And just, if you look at it, I was so unambitious with every time I had the ball. I just got the ball and went white shirt, white shirt, white shirt. And that's...
It isn't you, is it? It's not you.
No, I used to be really aggressive with my pass and try and go for things, but it was one of those, and it was weird because like my wife said, I would say, yesterday, I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not on social media or anything like that. I'm still a bit of in the old school.
You and me both, Graham.
Yeah. So it was my wife that said, it was yesterday. It was 8 years ago today that you played your last game and scored, and obviously there was a little video of the goal on the social media, and I'm looking at it and all the little things before it, and I was watching with my son going, if that had happened differently, I wouldn't have got the chance to score that goal. And this, and the ball nearly ran out of play just before, and I keep it in and stuff like that. So I think it was, meant to be in the end. But I remember just getting it, and to be honest, it was my last game, and a lad called, some of you guys will remember, Will Hayhurst, he made his debut. He came on in that game, and he was actually looking after my boots and so forth that season as a young player. And I actually wanted him to score, so I told him to sort of move centrally. I thought the free kick was too wide at first.
Well, I was going to say, you haven't established that we got a free kick.
Yeah, sorry.
25 yards out and just to the right.
Yeah, so
in a minute, but
so we won that free kick, and I spoke to Will and I said, look, just drift off into the middle of the goal, the pitch. I'll pretend I'm going to cross it. I'll square it for you, and you can get your shot off. And I was thinking, and then Paul Coots walked across, who was captain on the day, and he said, what are you thinking, Grez? So I told him my plan, and he a few expletives. He said, what are you doing? It's the 90th minute. You're not going to play again. Have a shot. And I weighed it all up, and okay. So it was one of that. And if he hadn't have had that, I'd have probably done something differently. So I put the ball down. I still thought it was a really difficult angle. So I tried. If you see just before it, I'm waving my arms about as if I'm going to cross the ball. And if I was trying to sell to the keeper that I was going to cross it to the back post to try and get him across to the other side of his goal a little bit. And then when the whistle went, it was obviously I went over. I just tried to miss the wall. My technique was, if I get it over the wall, I've I've got a chance. I didn't really aim for any part of the goal in particular. I just, if I get it over the wall, I've got a chance. And I got it over the wall, and I didn't actually see the ball go in because it went in the bottom corner. I just see the crowd behind in the town end just explode. And
I thought you said that pace was the least important attribute of a right back. I've never seen you move so fast in your life. I think if it was Jamie Proctor hadn't caught you, you'd have at the corner flag, you'd have dived head first into the crowd.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you know, I think for me it was I just couldn't believe it. You know, I didn't even think about coming on and scoring a goal or anything. Or if it was, it would possibly with a penalty.
Right.
You know, if we'd have been a penalty. But I think I just did it and it went in. And you know, I've never had a feeling before it or since, because it was just, I just couldn't believe it. And it went in, and I lost myself. I lost myself in the whole moment. Went into the crowd, went to the edge of the crowd, but the whole team, even the goalkeeper, ran up and dived on me, and some poor steward was right next to me, and he got trapped between the players and the crowd and everything. And then I came out for breath and that, and then obviously the ref comes across to give me a yellow card, which, you know what I mean, it's part of that. But honestly, I couldn't believe it, and I still, if I, you know, when I saw it yesterday, I was getting quite emotional watching it yesterday, and I've got some videos saved of that, and it's not the TV camera angle, it's the supporters' videos from behind the goal that they've put on YouTube over the years. Yeah. And you can hear the support before I take it, and you know, the commentary, and then the eruption of the crowd and everything.
Well, we're gonna embarrass you again. We're gonna show it again now, hopefully.
Oh, okay.
You can.
Amazing.
Don't get too emotional.
No.
John, before you do it, can I just say one thing, Graham?
Yeah.
When Steven Spielberg's making a film of this, who do you want to play you? Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise, yeah, my wife likes Tom Cruise, so maybe Tom Cruise might keep her happy. So, yeah, it'd probably be someone not as good looking as Tom, but yeah.
Go on, over to you, John.
No, I was going to say, Andrew, if you can play the video, Andrew, I'll have to have a look again. I don't know whether you can talk us through it, Graham. You might not be able to. I'm not sure, but anyway, watch it again.
Can you hear me, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they watch me waving my left arm, trying to
keep going.
I'm crossing it. I wanted the keeper to go to the right hand side of his goal, and he just.
Oh, whoa, brilliant!
Yeah. and yeah.
I think that's Jamie Proctor's just caught you, stuck you down head first into the crowd.
It is, yeah. It's. I think you see the keeper coming up in a minute. There he is.
There he is.
Yeah. So, you know, I just, you know, the noise, the people around, you know, there's videos from just where I sort of went towards the crowd, and there's some from the side, you know, in the.
There's a better one in the corner actually, but I wanted to show the one of the goal because that's a better one. What a good free kick it was. The one that you celebrated is very good, but it's not as good an angle on the goal.
Yeah, it's a great angle to see how it went just over the wall and in the bottom corner. And I think, you know, that you just, you know, I've seen pictures of like action pictures of it up to it, and it just goes over the last player's head in the wall by about an inch, and he's the smallest player in the wall. And I just I just weigh all those little things up that you go, and you just think how everything comes into line just to give you that bit of luck to go in. And it was just, you know, it's the, you know, if I move my laptop, I've got one picture of me playing basically that my wife got me as a present, and it's that one. That's it.
Yeah, well, I've got that on my wall up here, but I'll not do that. I'll show you mine.
But for me, my wife got me that for my birthday, and for me, it summed up my career really. That my facial features, just pure joy.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I just
one thing that worries me here, John, I can imagine Graham's wife buying that, because obviously a personal thing. The fact that you've got it on your bedroom wall is a bit worrying.
Well, no, it's actually for my son. Actually. Not for me. No, not for me.
Yeah, so I'm not. I just it was the best. Look, I did different things and played for Scotland and got to the Premier League. But if there was a 10-second period in my career that I'd live again, it's that one.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. Look, I'm going to take you right back now. I'm going to ask you, wind you back 13 years, if I can.
Yeah.
March 99, I think you're 27. You've been a pro for 10 years with Scunthorpe and Luton, playing in Division 1 and 2. You've done pretty well. You're established as a dependable defensive midfield player. But I'd like you to tell us what you were thinking then about the rest of your career, the position particularly you wanted to play in, and the level at which you wanted to play. Because I think this, if you like, this question sums up what you did after in your career from the age of 27. I mean, you got halfway through. It was a big, big turning point for you, wasn't it?
It was a complete U-turn or sliding doors moment for me, signing for Preston and for David Moyes at that time, because like you say, I think if I went back to my first team debut, I was 17, and then I was 27. So, like you say, I've been a professional or a player for 10 years or so, and I think you did me a good justice there, saying I'd done okay. I hadn't really done much in the game at all, of note or anything. Listen, I love being a footballer and being a professional footballer. I didn't take it for granted at the start, but I think my time at Luton, we got relegated in my first season from the Championship to League One. Players was getting sold off. They were struggling for money, everything, and all the good players were leaving and young players coming through. And it was, and I just felt I was going nowhere. Even myself, I felt differently about the game. I felt differently about going into training, and I was just losing the fire in my belly that I'd always have, that always got me something and got me somewhere. And I was just, and I say this with deep regret, because I was almost ticking. I was still enjoying playing, but I wasn't really chasing anything and going anywhere. And if at that time, the Bosman ruling that came in a couple of years before, and I was 27, and I knew what I was as a player. I knew what I could do, but I was also very aware what I couldn't do and what I needed to do better or improve. I needed somebody or a club or a team to be able to get that. I wanted to play at a higher level. And I told Luton that I was playing, like you say, I was playing in midfield for those 2 or 3 years at Luton. But I felt my best opportunity to play at a high level was at right back. I knew that's where I came into the game as a 17-year-old. And I got my debut in the league at Scunthorpe as a midfield player because I could do a job. But doing a job was just what I was doing. I wasn't excelling in what I could do as a player, and I felt right back was my best position, but I hadn't played there for a long time. So I spoke to the manager, Lenny Lawrence, at the time, and I just explained it to him in that really simple terms, really. And to be fair, he was brilliant with me, and he moved me back to right back, and I just felt like I was justifying what I was as a player at Luton in my last year. And they were trying to sign me on new contracts and that. And I told Lenny really early, because I didn't want to mess him about. I was always honest, and I said, look, whatever the club offers me, I'm not gonna sign again. I'll play. I'll work my nuts off. I'll do everything, but I'm not going to sign a new contract. I'm going to let my contract run out, and I need to see if someone.
We've lost your sound, Graham. We've lost your sound, or I have.
I have.
Something's happening.
You're all right. You're back on now, I think.
Am I back on?
Yes, you are. Yeah, keep going, mate. You're all right. Keep going.
Okay. It was. I was at that stage, and I just said I need to see if someone will take me on a free transfer. And I was quite honest with Lenny, and Luton still offered me a couple of contracts. I was playing very well, I felt, and I was playing at right back. And it got towards March, and Preston came in for me, and I met David Moyes at I think it was a hotel just off the motorway one night, and at that point I was looking for someone to grab me shape me up, give me the what I needed to improve as a player and play at a higher level. That was it really. I was quite aware of my deficiencies and where I needed to improve. And to be fair, I think David Moyes was very clear on those deficiencies as well. I think he saw them. He'd done a lot of homework on me. Clive Middlemas, the chief scout, and watched me quite a few times. I played against Preston quite a lot as well in my years at Scunthorpe and Preston, and played against David Moyes. So, but as a midfielder, but he was straight and direct. Look, you're good at this, you're good at that, but you can't. You're a lazy defender. You're not fit enough, and I can help you do these things and improve these things. And it was exactly what I wanted to hear. What I needed to hear. Sorry, not what I wanted, what I needed to hear. And but as the days went past after that, it was a great discussion. Then Burnley came in for me. So I was driving up to Preston to speak to Preston about terms and everything, but Burnley had come in for me at the same time, and Preston had offered 50 grand to Luton, and I think Burnley had offered 100 grand. Now Luton was skint, and I think they went into administration not long after, and so they wanted me to go to Burnley and everything like that. So and one of my best mates was at Burnley, so I went and spoke to Stan Turner as well. Came to Deepdale, spoke to David Moyes. I think it was Tony Scholes at the time. Then I went across to Burnley, spoke to Stan Turner at his house, and they offered me a better contract for the next 3 years. They were offering Luton more money, but I just and I tried to play the game and used it a bit, trying to get a little bit more out of pressing, because my wife, I was married then. My son was 2 years old, but my wife was pregnant with twin girls, and it was a big time in my life, and I knew, where I was coming to at 30, you're sort of going, or so-called, you're going the other way. And so I tried to push it with Preston for that. They didn't budge on the contract, didn't budge. They were a tight-run ship, I think you could say. But I still just decided to sign for Preston for that reason, for the football perspective of signing. I'll be honest, Preston then wasn't the club that it was now. It is now. It wasn't the stadium that it is now. Everything like that. If it hadn't been for David Moyes, I possibly would have been swayed away. But I just needed his direction and coaching at that particular to make a career for myself.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about your time with Moisey, but time's getting on, so I want to move on to the one that I know a lot of other people want to talk about with you, and that's about penalty taking.
Right.
I think, where are we now? Yeah, you scored 65 goals for North End, a staggering 52 from the penalty spot. How did this love affair between you and the penalty spot start? And tell us a bit. I'll prompt you. Well, you probably take it on, but about your technique and etc.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. It wasn't a love affair at first, because it stemmed from my first year in the Scunthorpe first team. We got to the player final that year in the old fourth division against Blackpool, of all teams, and I was 19, and it was my first year, and it went to penalties. And when the manager, just said, "Who wants a penalty?" I put my hand up. I was always up for something, and I'd already scored in a penalty shootout in the FA Cup that year. So he named me. I stepped up, thinking, great, I'm going to score at Wembley. He's going to score for my team, hopefully get promoted, and the goalkeeper saved it, and I was distraught. Absolutely. And then my best mate missed the next one, and we got beat. So it cost us promotion. I was in tears, devastated, and I never got to take another penalty for about 5 years. And I was a young player. I always wanted to take penalties to go make up for that. And that was basically down to maybe a bit of a competitive nature to do a good job. I failed in it once. I wanted to show that I could succeed, and that was it. So I took them at Luton in my last year, and then when I come to Preston, we didn't get one for the 10 or 12 games that I played at the end of the season. Then I spoke to the gaffer, David Moyes, in pre-seasons and said about penalties, and he said, "Yeah," he goes, "You and David Ayres, it's between you two." And And it was funny enough, if I go back to the playoff final score for Scunthorpe, when I missed, David Ayres took the next one for Blackpool and scored. And then, 7 years later, I come to Preston and it's me and him vying for the penalties. So we practice every week and this, that, and the other. But when we got the first one that season, he wasn't on the pitch. So it was just pure luck. It was down to me. I took the penalty, scored, and that was it. And then it turned into a love affair. But I always felt, I just wanted to experience everything. I was always up for the challenge. I'd never back away from a challenge, and putting yourself on the spot for the team and for myself. There's nothing better than scoring a goal. That is it.
You had a very unusual technique, or some people would think. I remember Gary Lineker on Match of the Day talking about this. You ran up straight and you used the inside, the outside, and the top of your right foot.
Yeah,
you'd put one to the goalkeeper's left in the top right-hand corner with the outside of your right foot. It was very, very unusual. How do you think to develop that?
Do you know what? I was practicing one day, and it was actually, we were training on Deepdale, and I was practicing one day and doing it, and it was Kellen O'Hanlon who was watching, and he just said about because I was coming up at a normal angle and whipping it across, and he said, I think the technique you've got in your ankle, I think you don't have to have a special, that's angle of a run up. So I sort of worked it, and I said, okay, and I just tried one straight, and just came in, and it just kept on going just inside the side netting, just inside the post, and I was thinking, and it just jumped. So I just carried on doing that, bang, and it was like, I'm hardly missing it, and I never practiced with a goalkeeper because I always try to get it where even if the keeper goes the right way, he doesn't save it. There was no mind games with keepers or anything. I thought, if I get it to this position where I've trained for and practiced, it doesn't matter even if he knows. So I kept on doing it, and to be fair, when I took it into games, it worked. But then the more penalties I took, obviously, then I had to think of where I was going to put them, because I can't just continue to do that. I think goalkeepers are going to slide to there. So it came from, I think, a couple of times at Luton, if I took one and then I had a second one, I'd always blast it down the middle. And that was it. So I practiced that technique. And then it got to, right, well, I need the amount of penalties I took. Then it was like, right, I'm going to have to try and get it in this side of the goal as well. But I don't want to change my run-up. So I don't want to give the goalkeeper any understanding. So it was it was funny because I used to practice, and then I tried to practice on my own. So I'd wait till we're all walking off, and I'd sort of hang back and then turn around and walk back, because all the lads wanted to practice penalties, but I wanted to practice on my own. But when players did join in, they would try that technique. They could do it that side, inside net, but they couldn't get it. They were kicking the floor, they were toe poking it over. So it was quite a unique. I didn't use it that often but it just came from that, just from practice and the necessity to start to change it. My penalties, really.
Right. We've got some questions. Well, I'm calling questions from the floor, from the ether, I suppose they are, Graham. But
okay.
This is one from Jed Leach, but he's actually going to bring Steve Elliott in here, because I think Steve might have something to say to you, Graham.
Okay.
So, Jed, if you can put his mic on, Andrew, please.
Yeah, got it. Hi, Graham. Nice to see you again. I think I watched you on one of the playoffs with Birmingham, if I recall.
Right, yeah.
I think you scored a penalty in the shootout then. It was 4-2, wasn't it?
Yeah, I missed one in extra time.
Extra time, yeah.
Extra time, I think.
But you got the shootout. That's what mattered.
Yeah, it did in the end. Thank God.
Yeah. It was only a quick one, really. Most of it you've actually gone into in terms of my first question, which was the most memorable penalty you actually took. I was going to ask, bring in Steve a little bit and have his view on Steve Elliott on his view on penalties, and if he scored any memorable ones as well. So if you could just do another memorable one, then we'll try and bring in Steve to see if he's got a memorable penalty he took.
I think, to be fair, you just mentioned the one in the playoffs semi-final. The pressure of that, because I'd missed in normal time, and it was the first time I'd missed for Preston, and it was a big shock for me. But I think it was a shock for my teammates as well a little bit, because they'd seen me score so many. But then when it got, Ranch scored that goal in the last minute, saved my life. And then the immediate thought was, oh no, I've got to take another penalty. And, and the gaffer, right, Greza first up, yeah, not a problem. I was all, like I say, for the challenge. But as I'm walking up, oh my God, the thoughts in my head, if you miss another penalty, if you miss 2 penalties in one game in the playoff semi-finals, it's that one at Wembley all over again. It's that one at Wembley all over again. But even if you see it, I took the exact same penalty, because I hit the bar on the first one, and I knew my practice, I can do it. And it's virtually identical, apart from about 3 inches lower. And that is it. And the relief, it was pure, it was not joy, no joy, just pure relief. But I remember we won, and then we went out for a drink afterwards. My mate, Rob Edwards, who played left back, great mate, and he just kept coming up to me all night, kahunas, that's what he said, because he'd missed one in the shootout, unfortunately, but he just couldn't believe that and he couldn't believe that I went back up to take another one, sort of thing. But that I'm quite proud of the fact that but that was our team at the time. You saw the other penalties, Sean Gregan's, Dave Healy's, Paul McKenna's at the end. Brilliant, and that's the one that I showed a bit then, and I like the fact that.
Steve, you took, I think, 10 penalties for Northend, and I think you scored all 10. I think. What can you tell us something about your technique? Graham's told us about his. Can you tell us something about yours?
It's just the way I take my penalties, to be honest, and I just like to play to play against everybody, really, to be honest. First game at Millwall, and I went down the right hand side and just stuck it in the top corner, and that was it. And then I went to where were they at? And it was the first game of the season against, it wasn't Millwall. It was just a game, and I just went for it, to be honest. And that was how it was, to be honest.
How much did you enjoy scoring your penalties?
Well, it was I just wanted to take a penalty, really, and came out and I just took it into the top corner, and that's it.
I think you're still pretty good at taking them, Steve. I just wondered whether you'd got anything to say to Graham about maybe taking some penalties with him in the future.
Yeah, challenging.
Yeah.
That would be good. That I know you've said it half an hour. That would be a good. We'll have to set up as and when we'll have to set up a penalty challenge.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to, Norman. We're trying to do that now. Come on, Steve.
That would be wonderful.
There you go. Go on, Steve.
He's got 100% penalty record though at Preston.
Well, if Steve won't do it, you do it, Graham. Come on, you do it, Graham.
I'm up for it.
You up for it?
I'm up for it.
Well, there you go. When all this finishes, we'll have a penalty shootout between the two of you for charity.
Yeah,
all right.
Hey, Mum.
Brilliant.
Hey, Mum.
I've got another question.
Bring it on.
Howard Moorby, Andrew, if you can get Howard's mic unlocked.
Hiya. Are you okay?
Yeah, you're on, Howard. Go away. Where you going?
Hi, Graham. Thanks for joining us. Very informative. Brilliant, that. Basically, my simple question is, in my opinion anyhow, you formed an excellent partnership on the right flank with Lee Cartwright, and the results show how well PNE played, when that partnership was together.
Yeah.
What was the secret? What was the secret to that partnership? And also, can you explain why Lee always ended up on his backside after crossing the ball?
Do you know what? If I go back to my first meeting with David Moyes, he actually said, "Look, he goes, you play behind a player who will help you play till you're 40." And I didn't know who he was talking about at the time. You know, he said, we've got a player who helped you to play to your 40. And when I come to Preston and I played with Lee Carter, he was perfect for me as a right back because he could run all day. I mean, he was ridiculous. You know, he was and I think that was it. He did a load of my running for me. And but I knew exactly what he needed, what he wanted, and he was just. And he was the same with me. We did a lot of work on as a team under David Moyes. You know, it wasn't just go out there and do whatever. We worked on a lot of stuff, but I knew Carts would be back to help me, and he knew I'd be always supporting him, and we did have a genuine partnership. But I used to, as I go back to the start, I was very unambitious when we were passing in that last game. But back then, I always wanted to. I just didn't want to make the simple pass to my winger, so I always wanted to punch through lines and play it in front of the winger. And that was perfect for Carts because he was so quick and wanted it in front of him so he could just get onto it and whip. And the falling over as he crossed was part of his technique. He was one of the best crossers of the ball I've seen because he could actually run away from the box and actually cross it back the way.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's how he got so many crosses because he'd take it away from the fullback and the fullback would think, well, you're running into the corner flag. And then he'd just whip it in, and he was superb at it. Like, and I thought he was pure selfless, all for the team, and just down to earth lad. And really, he was brilliant. I loved playing with him. And to be fair, Moyes' sort of prediction was right. I mean, I didn't play with Carts for all those years, but I ended up playing until I was 40, and you know, I'm sure he had a part to play in it at that time. And I think he made me realise well how fitter I had to be as a player to actually play in Preston's team and play for David Moyes. So he had a fantastic time playing with Carts.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks, Graham.
And also I've got a question from Mike Jackson. If we can Mike's mic. Away you go, Mike.
Yeah, you got me. Yeah. Hiya, Graham. It's really great to have you with us today. And I think you're a legend. I've agreed with my three sons who watched you and myself over the years that you are definitely a PNE legend. And we were there that last day when you scored the goal, and we were behind the goals at the town end, and you came towards it, and it's a moment we'll never forget. Now, I've asked my kids about what question I should ask as well, and we've all come to the conclusion I should ask you. Over your 421 games you played with Preston North End, who would you regard as the most talented, gifted player that you played with in the Preston North End teams?
I think that's a real tough question because, you know, I loved the team players, me. I always loved the players that were selfless, that would work ethic, wanted to be with with pure team. It was about the team, but sometimes that probably goes away from the actual individual abilities of certain players. And I mean, you know, if I look at my 8 years in my first period, you know, I thought Paul McKenna was vastly underrated as a player. We had a great partnership. You know, played in the middle, and probably played more games with Paul McKenna than I did any other player in my career. Really, we had a great understanding of little throw-ins on quick free kicks, all that sort of stuff. But if I go for actual individual ability and skill, it's really difficult to look beyond Ricardo Fuller. You know, as just as an individual, I don't think we actually had, in my 8 years, the first time, that was probably the most unsuccessful we've been, unfortunately, in those 2 years. But as an individual, he was just ridiculous as a player. You know, he had strength, pace, but what he could do on the ball, you know, and he did it in training. He was a tough boy. I mean, you know, if he went up against the big centre halves, we had, you know, Chris Lequet, Mike Jackson, Claude Davis, and Yule, people like that, and he was as hard as them. You know, they would kick him, and they knew he was going to give it back. But then I play, you know, when I remember some of the goals he scored against Burnley and against Leicester, and I knew the centre halves playing for Burnley and Leicester. Steve Davis was a real good mate of mine. Matt Elliott at Leicester at the time, I lived with him when we played for Scunthorpe together, and he tore them apart. And I was like, he's unbelievable. I wouldn't say he was you know, and I say this with greatest respect, Ricardo, because, you know, I got on really well with Ricardo, but he wasn't what you'd say a team player. It was very much individualistic and everything like that. But for outright talent and just as a player, I thought he was standout really on that side of it. But when you're building a team, or the teams I played in, there was other players that I thought were, you know, people like John Macken and people like that who sensational as a centre forward for Preston in my time when I played with him, and you know, people like that. I thought, and I'm missing out probably several players, but you know, that's probably as honest as I can be with that, really.
Thanks, Graham. We agreed.
Okay, Mike.
Thanks a lot, Graham. That's I've got a couple more here, but I'm conscious of Martin, and he's got a lot more to ask you. So, from my point of view, thanks a lot for answering my questions and our fellow members of Sporting Memories, and thanks for coming on. Back to you, Martin.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Graham. Right, so John's covered your time at Deepdale, but of course you played. We've talked on Scunthorpe, we've talked about Luton. So you make your 400th appearance for North End against Colchester.
Yeah.
And went home and packed your bags. I don't think anybody saw that coming, did they?
I didn't see it coming at all. You know, at that particular time, I didn't at all. It was crazy, really. You know, it was the start of the season, and like you say, I just played my 400th game. You know, I think there had only been 10 players that had done that previous, and the club had given me an award before the game, you know, to mark the occasion, which was fantastic. And you know, I was captain at the time and everything, and things just sort of came across in the next couple of days. You know, I got a phone call from Burnley, you know, saying, you know, we'd like to come and offer you a 2-year contract. You know, I think I was 35 or just about to turn 35. I had a year left on my contract at Preston. And they wanted to sign me. They wanted to make a bid for me and sign me and offer me a 2-year contract. So immediately I said I'd think about it, but I said I'd think about it because I went back to Preston and said, you know, look, this is by that time I think they'd contacted Preston, and I said, look, I don't want to leave. I want to stay here. I'm captain. I love the club. I want to stay here. But they're offering me a 2-year contract. Can you match? Can you give me an extra year? And again, Burnley were offering me more money. But I said at the time to North End, I said, I don't want a penny more than what I'm getting paid now. I said, I just want another year, which would take me up to 10 years. I want to play in the Championship at least. I know, you know, this is where I want to stay, but I've got to think of my career and everything else. But I want to stay here. And so manager at the time, we had a couple of discussions, and they couldn't offer me the extra year, which I can understand now from a manager's perspective and a experience, but I was gutted at the time, you know, and it became a little bit of a discussion between me and the manager at the time that the reason was for seeing if my legs were going to be okay and my fitness and everything. And I just, at that moment, I'd said, well, I've played for 8 years at Preston. I've played 400 games. That works out 50 games a season. I think you know I'm fit. I think, you know, you've got every stat on me for the next 8 years. You know, this club knows me physically and mentally more than any other club, you know, or any other person. But they're showing that faith in me. So it became that. And there was no budging. And at that time, I spoke to Derek Shaw, who was the chairman at the time, and I said, look, it has to go one way or the other, or I need to go for this because I can't turn down a 2-year contract at the age of 35 to stay in the Championship. And in the back of my mind, you know, I knew the game and I knew what it was about. And the club had just signed Billy Jones in the summer, fantastic young player, as a right back, and he was sitting on the bench. And I think I can't remember the tribunal, but we Preston paid a lot of money for him, more money than they'd hoped for. And he was on the bench, and I knew there'd be a desire to get him in the team at some point. So that was it, really. And I had discussions with Derek Shaw, and I'd known Derek for the 8 years because he was a director before that. And I just put my cards on the table and say, look, you know I don't want to leave here, but as a professional, I have to put my professional head on and this, that, and the other. And it transpired over the next couple of days. And when it come down to it, yeah, I moved across the way, and that was probably the worst week I'd had in professional football, to be honest. Even if I look back now, you know, the things that are going through my mind. My wife was telling me to stay. My dad was telling me to stay. Most of my teammates were telling me to stay, and I wanted to stay. But I looked into the future in 3 months' time, and I thought, well, I'm out of contract. I'm 35. I think Billy Jones will get in the team at some point, and I don't want to be at the end of my contract as a 35-year-old going in with nothing. I couldn't allow myself to be in that position. So I had to make that thing happen then, or in 9 months' time, I was going to be screwed basically. And I couldn't, you know, I'd seen it happen to players, and I couldn't let it happen to myself. So yeah, push it through, and I can see from Paul Simpson's point of view now. I can see it, you know. Stepping back, I can see it. I can see it from Preston. You know, I think they signed me for 50,000 as a 27-year-old and sold me for 200,000 as a 35-year-old. So on all those moments, I can see it now from an older head. But at the time, I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. And you know, I didn't eat for 3 days. I came off in my first game for Burnley because I cramped up after 70 minutes. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink. I was in tears when I left the club. On the Wednesday, I went into the club to see my teammates, see the staff and that, and I was in tears leaving the ground and everything. It was horrendous, to be honest. It was horrendous, but yeah, it's you know, the game turns you into professional, and sometimes you have to take your heart, put it to the side, and see what the bigger picture is at that time.
I think coming from that less than ideal start at Burnley, you know, I mean, with the best will in the world and being as professional as you like, you've had this trauma of leaving a club you don't want to leave and going to another club, and as you say, not being fit and because you're not being eating whatever. But actually, it turned out quite well. 2 years later, you're playing in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And so, what were the highlights of that season then? I mean, I had a quick look. I mean, you scored at the Etihad. That must have been quite nice. Scored against Arsenal at Turf Moor. He scored a hat-trick of penalties against Hull across 2 games. So, some big memories of that season then.
Well, you know, for me, the season I really, really enjoyed. Look, as a professional, and the pinnacle was getting to the Premier League, which obviously I tried so hard to do with Preston over the years. And I'll be honest, when I went to Burnley, and I've said this before, I didn't think at Burnley we had a better chance of getting there. I thought my best chance of getting to Premier League was at Preston. But I was thinking, right, I'm 36, that's maybe gone beyond me. But and I wasn't good in that first season at Burnley. I wasn't, because I was still pining to be back at North End. And I've admitted this, and I feel ashamed to do it, because Burnley were paying my wages. They showed a lot of faith in me to bring me there. And I felt that I didn't do them justice at all. But you know, the second year I sat myself down really and had a noisy chat with myself. Really, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. You need to start doing this, and that's where I was. And that second season was fantastic when we got promoted out of the Championship. I played every single game. We also got to the Carling Cup semi-finals that year, which sort of goes in the background because of what we did in the league. So. But the lads I played with and everything, and the staff that I played with at the time were just sensational. They were such a fun environment to be in every day. And to get to the Premier League at that stage, I was 37 by then. I had to pinch myself. But when I went into the playoff final against Sheffield United, that was the end of my contract after that game. So I didn't have a contract after that. And I tried to open up talks with Burnley, but they were saying, we're not talking to anybody until after the final. So I went into that game thinking this could be my last game. And I was going, and as a professional, I'm going, right, if we get promoted, they might just go, see you later. We need better than you into the Premier League. But I just felt, we wanted to win. And obviously we won the playoff final, which was my first success in the playoffs as a player in my whole career. You know what I mean? I'd had 6 playoffs before that in the other clubs, and not won any of them. And then the 7th was with Burnley at 37, and we got up. And I just couldn't. It didn't turn out anywhere near what I thought it would. It was just off the scale. And and obviously when we went into the Premier League, and unfortunately the captain was injured in pre-season. I ended up leading the team out in the first game of the season at Stoke, and then the second game at Turf Moor was against United, who were the reigning champions, and we beat them 1-0. So all these highlights started happening, and I was playing at Anfield, playing at Old Trafford, and all these grounds and occasions had passed me by in the previous 20 years as a player. And I enjoyed myself. I just thought, I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to go, I'm going to play, I'm going to try and win. And we did. I felt we did really well in the first half of the season. But those individual things, scoring against Man City, scoring against Arsenal, it was my 100th league goal as well that night. Scoring against Arsenal, and scoring against Hull as well. It was just scoring, playing in the Premier League, playing at those grounds was for me, after being a player for 20 years and not playing at any of those grounds, was just amazing for me. And I was just gutted that I wasn't 10 years younger to enjoy another 10 years of it. That was the thing. But I just thought, a lot of players, and I never put it into my mind at that age to actually play at that level. So it was every game and every day was a bonus for me. And it was unfortunately it didn't turn out great at the end. We got relegated and came back down. But it was amazing just to get there at the age of 37, 38 to do that.
And then of course you came back to Deepdale, topped off your career. Norman said before about the film. Well, the script's already written, isn't it? Script writing.
Well, Sorry, go on, man.
Well, just get time running on a bit now, so we can't run too much longer. So you had all these 983 career club games, but you've also played for Scotland.
Yeah.
Through your father. Your father was and I've read that was always your ambition, that if you're an international footballer, it will be Scotland. You made your debut at 33. I bet you thought that passed you by as well, didn't you? Oh, your sound's gone off. Sound's gone off, Graham. Oh, you're back on again, yeah? No, it sound's gone off again.
Try again, Graham.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back on again, Graham.
It's back on there, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so if I go back to when I signed for Preston today, I signed for Preston at the start. David Moyes just talking about my family, asking me about my family, because obviously I've not got a Scottish accent, so he never thought that. And then I said, my dad's from Glasgow. And obviously, Moisey being a Glaswegian, said, what part, all this lot. And then suddenly became agitated and excited. And he said, we'll have to get you in that Scotland team one day. And I, like I said, I had 10 years in the bottom two divisions, basically. I took it with a pinch of salt, but this was what I needed that. And I had a sort of love-hate relationship with the gaffer for the first 2 years, because when he said how he was going to coach me and be on me to be better, I didn't realise he meant every single minute of every single day for the next 2-3 years. And sometimes I resented him for it, because he always picked holes in my game, or just wanted me to improve, and it's what I needed, but I didn't know how intense it would be. So, and I remember 2 years we had an argument about something. It was about analysing a position or something. I said, "You're always picking on me, the usual chip on the shoulder, rubbish, and you always pick on me." And then he showed me a paper cutting from up in Scotland, and it was him talking about me trying to get Craig Brown, who was a Scotland manager at the time, to pick me for Scotland. And I was like, and the penny just went, dropped in my head. And I thought, actually, no, he does rate me. He does think I'm a good player. Because you wouldn't say that publicly if you didn't generally feel the player could get to that level or play at that level. So, and that was it then. And unfortunately, when David Moyes left in March 2002, I hadn't made my debut at that time, and I hadn't played for Scotland. But he said he had a meeting with Bertie Vogts the following couple of weeks, because he went to manage Everton and Duncan Ferguson was there. and Scotland wanted Duncan Ferguson in the squad. He goes, I'm still going to push you forward to Bertie Vogts. And I really appreciate that. And a month later, you know, after the gaffer had left, I made my debut for Scotland. And, you know, it was unbelievable, you know, just to get that recognition of playing at international football. And I managed to stay with the squad for the next 7 years and got, you know, 40 caps. And, you know, and that purely and simple, I have David Moyes to thank for that. Without a shadow of doubt, I would not have played for Scotland if I hadn't have made that decision to come and sign for the gaffer.
So all in all, not a bad career, no.
Yeah, well, you know, it's one of them where I think when I started, I just wanted to play one professional football league game, so I could always say I was a professional footballer. Then you get a bit greedy and you want, right, can I play every week? And then can I get to 100 games? Can I play at this level? And you're always setting the bar and trying to get better and improve. And then before you know it, your season's over, your career's over, and you're looking back at everything because you always, you know, you know, I know I didn't have a stellar career because, look, there's players that have played at the top level all their careers and won Premier Leagues and European Cups and all that lot. So in relation, that's it. But I'm proud of the fact that where the clubs I played for, I only played for 4 clubs. I played near 200 games at least for each of the clubs. I think I was quite loyal and wanted those teams to win. I think I was a good teammate to be around. I thought I was maybe sometimes a pain in the ass because I used to moan a lot and wanted everyone to want to win every single day and this, that, the other. But I think I got respect from that. So I just look back and it was the people I met, the people I played with, you know, the supporters I had relationships with, and to actually leave a mark at a club, I think is the biggest thing for me. That actually you've gone through your career, 24 years, and you've got your own memories, but still other people will remember you. I think that's a big thing. That recognition of that. And all I want to do was play football every day. From the age of 8, I just want to play. Every day you get up and you want to go out and play football with your mates. And fortunately for me, I did it until I was 40. So what more can I ask for?
Precisely. Well, Martin, I think unless you want to say a final few words, I think we're going to have to wind up. But if you want to say, Martin, if you want to say a final few words.
Yeah, I was just about to wind it up, Norman. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks very much for that, Graham. Thanks for coming on. I know we've talked a lot about North End, and not everybody's North End fans, but I think the important thing is it's lots of really interesting insights to being a professional footballer. Just the things that go on. Fans see the 90 minutes of a game and don't know about everything else that's going on, and all the emotion you talked about in leaving North End for Burnley, for example, and all the issues about making a decision, you know, a footballing decision to come to North End in the first place rather than Burnley. So I think that's really, really interesting for all of us. And I think from those of us who are North End fans and who watched you, you said you'd never had a stellar career. I think we'd all argue with that. I know what you mean, you're not paid at the top level your entire career, but every one of us from my age down will always want to be Graham Alexander. Might not want to be Cristiano Ronaldo, I might not want to be Dennis Bergkamp or something like that.
As a Bolton Wanderers supporter, can I interrupt that one?
We're talking about football now, Norman.
No, I appreciate that, Martin. I really do. And obviously, as a Bolton Wanderers supporter, I've got to say, as a football fan, I know exactly what you mean, Martin. And the same with you, Graham. You live the dream. That's what we all want to do. You live the dream. You have the ups and the downs. And you showed today absolutely superb with regard to the emotion, whether it's the sad times or the happy times. And we don't realise, we tend to think footballers get well paid and they kick a ball. That type of thing, you know. Yeah. But I'd like to say, I'll mention one thing. When you got promoted with Burnley and you played Man United in your first game at home, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you won 1-0.
Yes.
I was invited to that game for the corporate hospitality, and even I stood up and cheered Graham.
Did you?
When he went in, I know it was Man United, that might have had an influence, but because as a Lancashire Milltown team, which we are, you talk about your Preston, you talk about Bolton, you talk about Burnley and Blackburn. We're Lancashire Milltown teams, basically. And
Yeah.
I was there as a football fan and thinking, this is flying the flag for the North and the teams up there. I'd like to say thank you very much to Martin and John as well for the questions and answers. We'd like to thank you personally. We could talk all day and we could listen all day, but we have our limitations. I'll just tell you about being in my business with the after dinners and everything. All my gigs have been cancelled because of the norovirus and everything.
Right.
And so I've nothing now. I'm 74. I was 74 yesterday, and so I'm now in a situation where they're talking about us keeping 12 weeks, and it might go to December.
Yeah.
And so all my work's gone. I had a phone call. This is genuine. I had a phone call yesterday from one gentleman who wants me to do an after dinner speech, and am I available on the 4th of March 2022? And after listening to all your speech there, I was going to ring him up because I didn't think we were going to get there. I thought we were going to be reaching 2022 any minute, but it's been absolutely great. And I'm sure everybody else agrees. Can we give a big round of applause? I know it'll be a silent round of applause, but thank you very much, Graham.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, honestly. It really has. And I hope everyone takes as much care as possible and gets through it safely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And to everybody else, thank you very much for joining us. And we're looking forward to this penalty shoot-off between Graham and Steve. I'm not saying who I'm supporting, but if Mags is stood there, she'll kick me if I don't say Steve. It's been absolutely wonderful. Sporting memories, pass it on to your friends. That's what we do. We get together, we talk about the memories, or we listen to great memories from great players and great sportsmen. Keith, do you want to say a final word?
Thank you. Brilliant.
Keith McIntosh, do you want to say a final word?
No, it's fine. Thank you. Very enjoyable. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you very much.
Graham. Thanks, Graham.
Graham, thank you, mate.
Thank you.